Hi, it's Mike Spatola, and we're talking about how to find a job after you graduate. All right, so the first thing I think of when I start talking with students about getting a job is that it really starts in the classroom for a lot of reasons. Network is one, but another is your work ethic in the classroom. What I look for when I'm referring for jobs, we're hiring people myself, is what's their attendance like? Are they ever late? You know, I look at that kind of thing because for me, I want to know if they're dependable or not. And so I'm looking at students from day one. You know, the minute I have them as a student, I'm looking at their attendance. I'm looking at the work that they're doing, not just the quality of the work that they're doing, because sometimes that's not as important as their work ethic. I feel that being a team player, their personality, not being a wallflower, you know, trying to please the director. If I'm the teacher, then I'm acting as the director, and how they take critique from me, I think, is very important. So if they get defensive or, argumentative, that's probably not somebody I'm going to want to work with, because they need to be open. They need to know they're not great yet. You know, they're still learning. And even on your earliest jobs, you know, you want to do the best job possible, obviously, but you have to understand that you're an artist for hire, not a creative director, but an artist for hire. And that means you are there to serve the director's vision of that character. So you may have this grand scheme of what you want this character to look like, but your vision is not necessarily the director's vision. If the director, you know, wants more beard shadow, you know, just cry all the way to the bank. Do what he asks, because at the end of the day, if you don't please him, you may not be back the next day. These are things I'm looking for initially before you ever even go out into the real world. A lot of times people will ask for references, and I know a lot of students upon graduation ask me if they can put me down as a reference. And I'm usually really good about saying yes if I understand their training, if I had them as an instructor. What I don't like to do is, if I never had them as a teacher, I don't like it when they come to me and ask for a reference, because how do I know if they're good or not, you know? You know, at some point, I pretty much have everybody as a student here at some point, but I want to make sure that if I'm putting my name to that I can wholeheartedly recommend them. And if they don't have good attendance, they're late all the time, I just can't have them put my name on their resume, because I don't want to lie when they call for a reference. So, you know, that goes back to that. You got to be doing a good job while you're here before you can do a good job out there. But yes, if you do good work and you have good work ethic and you're a team player and your teacher doesn't mind, ask them, you know, if they'll, you know, they can use you for a reference. That's fine. It does get difficult to write an original reference time after time after time after time. You have to understand, we graduate several hundred students a year here. I can't come up with several hundred different letters a year, letters of reference for students. So, you know, I have to try to find what's unique about each one, but still make it sound like a professional reference letter or email. Once you get out in the real world, you have to remember that networking is one of the most important things you can do. Your network also starts while you're a student here. Your classmates are your network initially. So you may be in a class and you may get this job that has, say, facial hair as part of the job. You might have to lay some beards. but you're not very good at laying beards, but your classmate is great at laying beards. There's nothing wrong with bringing your classmate onto the project with you. That's networking, right? That classmate is not going to try to steal the job from you. They're just going to make you look better because you brought the right person on for the job. And who knows, when they get a gig and you're better at something than they are, they'll bring you onto their project. That's networking, right? For me, when I first moved to LA in 1984, those people that I met within the first few months of being in LA are still my network today, 30 some years later. That's a solid network, right? And the way to do that, the way to have a solid network is literally to nurture the network. Be genuine friends. Don't just call them when you need a job, right? Call them up and say, hey, you want to grab a drink? You want to grab a beer? Want to grab lunch? You want to go to a movie? You want to go bowling? Whatever it is, you want to just come over for dinner. If you nurture that friendship, that network is going to last forever. And that's how I've kept the network I have all these years. If you have a good, solid network, you won't look for work very often because the word passes through the network. Somebody needs a makeup artist and they're not available, they'll refer you for the job. Resumes, it's basically your list of things you've done. At first, you will list things like your education. Where did you go to school for this? Did you go to college? Put your college, your university down as well. Your first resume is going to be pretty bare bones. It's not going to have a ton of stuff on it. So you are going to list things that are important right now, like what you learned. But if you were in the theater department at college, or even in high school, you can list some of the productions you've worked on, student films that you've worked on. And eventually, as you get more and more gigs on your resume, some of those lesser ones will fall off. My opinion is a resume shouldn't be 3 or 4 pages long. Nobody's going to look at it. No one will look at it. If I saw 4 pages, I'd be like, I'll look at the first page and then put it aside. Even somebody my age who is used to reading and not just texting like in shorthand, I've gotten short attention span too over the years. It's just something that has happened to us as a society over the years, is this short attention span thing. And frankly, people who are looking to hire may not necessarily want to look at 4 pages either. So my suggestion is always keep it to that 1 page, one-sided, 1 page, no matter how many jobs you've done. Eventually, it's just going to be the highlights. Like, I only have a couple things on my resume now, even though I have hundreds of projects under my belt. I only have a couple of things, just the highlights. And then I say, if you need to see more, please go to my IMDb, right? Because that's sort of the modern film resume, is the IMDb. Is it 100% accurate? No, it's not. It really isn't. There's things you worked on that won't be on there, and there's things that you never worked on that may appear because you have a similar name to somebody else. And I know myself, I have a couple things on my resume that I never worked on IMDb. And they won't change it. You have to write to them and submit a thing, and they never fix it. Should you list the laundry list of things that you do, or just your specialty? At first, you do need to sort of pad out that resume a little bit. So you are going to probably put kind of everything that you've done. But as time passes, you want to specialize in something that you're great at, then you're going to just focus on those jobs. At the same time, with your portfolio, it'll be the same way. At first, it might be a few, different genres. You might have beauty and blood, Do I recommend that? No, I don't. Because I'm a big proponent of making money. I think everybody should be in this business. You don't want this to be an expensive hobby. So what I feel is your portfolio should be segmented or even separate portfolios. And that goes for your social media as well. So what I mean by this is if you do beauty makeup as well as other things, but you know that weddings are a very lucrative market, do you think the brides that are seeking you out want to see your severed head or your slit throat or your bruises? They do not. So should you have a separate Instagram for that? Absolutely. Instagram's free. You can have as many as you want. And each one can make you look like a specialist in that area. So if you only have weddings on one, you are the wedding specialist. If you have blood and gore on another, hey, that's your specialty. And you can just send them to the right Instagram based on the job that they're looking to hire you for. When you have a little bit more money to play with, you probably want to separate your websites as well. Have a website for weddings, have a website for special effects. I just think a specialist is always going to make more money and be more attractive than a general practitioner. Video highlight reels are great. I think they're wonderful. To see the makeup moving is a fantastic thing. It's a little harder to do because you have to have somebody filming it, or you have to wait till the movie comes out or whatever to get clips to put in your highlight reel, because you can't publish that before the movie comes out because NDA, sued, you're out of business. But if you can wait and get clips of that film, you can create a very nice highlight reel to showcase your work. And I think it's fantastic. You can do some highlight reel stuff yourself while you're on set. You can have somebody shoot some BTS, behind the scenes for those who don't know. They can have them shoot some BTS of you working, and that's cool highlight reel stuff. It doesn't have to be the finished product, just showing that, hey, this is a person that's working on set. And that's helpful. Until you have that, photos is what you have to work with. And I feel like, being a photographer myself, I think having the best photos possible is going to showcase your work better and put you ahead of somebody else who might have lesser quality work. Even though their makeups might be great, if their photos stink, their work stinks. The question comes up all the time from students and graduates, do I stay in LA? I've finished my course here, do I stay in LA? There's, this is supposed to be the movie capital of the world. Do we stay here? All the creature shops are here, if you're gonna be going towards that route of working, for a creature shop. Or do I go back home? Or do I find another location? Well, right now, obviously, Atlanta is a hotbed. Literally every Marvel movie made shoots some of the movie in Atlanta. And Georgia is a right-to-work state, so there's a better chance of getting work there. Does that mean you should move to Georgia? I know competition's pretty rough there now, too, because of all the movies that go on there. Do you go back to New Jersey? I say New Jersey because that's where I'm from. Do I go back to New Jersey? Well, in New Jersey, what am I going to do? Well, I could cross the bridge and work in Philadelphia, or I could work in New York. But I kind of like the warm weather. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Plus, when I was coming up, this was the place to be to work in films. So I feel like it's what's important to you. Is it important to you to stay here and always be motivated by your friends who are here to continue to work? Or do you go back home? Or do you go to another place where maybe you don't know as many people, or anybody for that matter? That's a very personal thing. And it's hard for me to answer that as a blanket statement. So what I usually do is I ask the student, What's important to you? What do you want to do? If you're a beauty makeup artist, you can do that anywhere on the planet. You know, you can do weddings anywhere. You can do commercials anywhere. You can do fashion layouts, in any metropolitan area. So that's not an issue. But if you want to do, say, special effects makeup work, creature work, the most shops are here in LA. So my answer would probably be, you're going to stay here. Find a roommate so the rent is lower, somebody you can get along with that you won't want to choke to death because they leave dishes in the sink or whatever it is. But find somebody you can share expenses with until you can afford to live on your own here and have your own place. And that comes from that sort of network at school too, because you know who you get along with in the classroom. You might already be rooming with somebody from your class. So you can definitely stay here and continue to pay the rent a little more safely and get jobs in the creature shops here. A lot of people think, oh, we're artists, we can look however we want, right? We can have, facial piercings and multicolored hair and, tattoos all over the place. And yes, God bless you, do it if that makes you happy. But just remember, the people that are doing the hiring are generally not your age, they're my age. And so I feel that no matter what your self-expression is casually, when you go for a job interview, you dress professionally. It could be business casual, but if you're covered in tattoos, again, I have tattoos myself, right? But when I go in for an interview, it's long sleeves. It's just how it is. I feel like when you get out of school here, like when you're in school and you have all this crazy hair, multicolors and shaved sides, and that's your self-expression, that's great. But when you get into the real world, people want people that, as sad as this might sound, appear professionally or appear responsible, not appear as an artist. And so this is just my opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth. But again, the people who do the hiring are generally my age. They don't know you yet. And people do judge a book by its cover, whether you like it or not. So I do say, dress professionally, carry yourself professionally, show up for that interview way early, just do all the things I want you to do when you come to school here. Be early, not on time. On time is late. Be early. Even if you have to wait, even if they keep you waiting 10, 20 minutes after you were supposed to start your interview, you're there early. Makes you look good, all right? Have your resume, have your portfolio with you. Have a great attitude. Look people in the eye when they're interviewing you. Make eye contact, strong eye contact. When you shake their hand, don't let it be the dead cold fish, right? I hate that. Anybody ever get a handshake and you go to shake their hand and they hand you this fish? No, shake their hand like you mean it, almost like you want to hurt them. Shake their hand. Don't crush it, but give a squeeze and look them in the eye when you do it. That's going to show you are confident, right? Confidence is what's going to get you through almost everything. And if you don't have it, you got to fake it till you make it. If you're going to an interview with somebody, you should do your research on them, right? You should know a little bit about the project. You don't just show up cold, not knowing what they're looking for, right? If it's a director you've heard of before, then you may know some of their work. If it's a director you've never heard of before, look up their IMDb. Be prepared. When you go in there, it may give you a basis, a talking point, right? I always say this to my students about their teachers, because sometimes they don't know what to say to their teachers. I say, look up their IMDb. Look and see what they've worked on. Because if you know what they worked on, maybe it was one of your favorite movies and you don't even know it. Students all the time, they're like, you worked on Tremors, or, ooh, you worked on Tales from the Crypt, or you did Return of the Living Dead. These are, to some people, cult classic films, but they didn't know I did it because my name is not a household name, right? I wasn't on Face Off. Even if the person interviewing you is swearing right and left, that doesn't give you license to do it. I still feel, be professional. Be professional. If the interview starts to get a little more casual and you feel it's okay to do it, maybe, but I really feel like you got to take the high road all the time. Until you got the job, take the high road. Here's a case in point. I have been, or not recently, but I used to do a lot of work with Six Flags Magic Mountain for their Fright Fest event. And when we're at the job working, we can wear shorts and t-shirts and show our tattoos, and it's fine. But when we go in for the interview, we have to be at least business casual, long sleeves, no tattoos showing, no more than, for girls, no more than 2 earrings. For boys, no more than 1 earring. And, they want no multicolored hair. It's 1 hair color. Now, once you got the job and you're backstage, the customers will never see you. But it's a very corporate place. So even if it's just a silly haunted house, thing, you still got to be professional for the interview. Negotiating your salary, especially when you're brand new, is really difficult. You don't have a lot on your resume to back it up. So I do feel like your first couple of gigs, you could even do for free or do for cost, right? They'll pay for your supplies and give you pizza and the IMDb credit for a movie no one will ever see, right? That doesn't matter. What matters is you're getting on-set experience and you're getting another thing for the resume. But after you do a few of those, it's like, okay, this is getting old. I don't want to keep working for free for the rest of my life. But you have to start thinking, what is minimum wage in the state you're working in, right? If minimum wage is $15 an hour and they want to pay you $75 for a 12-hour day, that's not minimum wage. That's slave labor. And I really feel like if they offer that after you've done X number of projects, you have to say, that's not even minimum wage. I'm really sorry. I feel like I would love to do your project, but that doesn't even really cover my materials, let alone my, cost per hour. So I do feel like after a couple of projects, feel free to set a rate for yourself. Whatever that rate is, if it's, if you're okay with making minimum wage for your first couple of projects, multiply that by 12 because it's going to be at least a 12-hour day. And if you're okay with that, that's your rate for now. That's not going to be long term. It's just for now. And so if if you tell them, okay, well, it's $200 a day plus X amount for kit fee or kit rental. The kit rental is basically to replenish your stock of makeup. You're going to use supplies that shouldn't come out of your pocket. That should come out of production's pocket. So, you'll already have your kit. They call it a kit fee or a kit rental so that you can replenish those supplies. And so your negotiated rate plus your kit fee is what you're going to get paid per day. Or if you're doing a whole project, then it's a weekly, you negotiate a weekly rate. Eventually, again, as you're building that resume, project after project, when you have enough on there, you can say $250 a day, $300 a day, right? But it takes time. You can't just immediately go out in the world and go, yeah, I deserve $500 a day plus $50 a day kit rental. And you can't do that, not when you're brand new. And if you do it and get away with it, God bless you. But you're not going to get many jobs.